You know that voice that says, be realistic, don't get your hopes up? For many mid-season women, that voice has been in charge for decades. But your brain and body actually need healthy imagination to practice new possibilities before your life can shift in real time. Welcome back to Rooted Insights, a podcast for women in their second season of life who spent years caring for everyone else. Kids, partners, work, households, holding it all together while quietly putting your own needs on the back burner. If you now find yourself wondering, what's next for me? What do I really want from my life now? And how do I start prioritizing myself without dropping everything else? You're in the right place. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelley, a health and well-being specialist and mind-body expert, and here we blend grounded, science-informed practices into everyday life so we can better support our hardworking nervous systems, emotional health, and authentic selves in this powerful mid-season of life. This is the third episode in our Inner Power Trio series: Intuition, Intention, and now Imagination. We've talked about intuition as your body's inner compass, that quiet internal knowing, and intention as how you aim your energy. Today we're exploring imagination as your brain's inner rehearsal studio and space, a place where you can safely practice new ways of being, unlearn fears, and gently train your nervous system for the new version in life you want next in this mid-season. So take a slow inhale and a slightly longer exhale. And as you do, notice what kind of future your mind usually imagines. Best case, worst case, or no case at all. And let's find out why imagination is the catalyst for what's to come next in your life. I want to start with a pattern I see a lot in mid-season women. On paper, you might describe yourself as practical, grounded, and realistic. You get things done, manage responsibilities, and hold a lot for other people. But at night, when the house is quiet and the lights are off, your imagination goes to work in a very different way. You imagine worst-case scenarios for the people you love. Accidents, bad choices, futures derailed. You imagine losing your job, your health collapsing, or everything you've built somehow falling apart. Or you replay awkward conversations, things you could or should have said or done differently, and picture them going even worse next time. You see the future as a narrowing tunnel, more exhaustion, more responsibility, and less joy. By morning, your body feels like it's lived through those disasters, even though none of them actually happened. You wake up tense and depleted, as if your imagination spent the night putting you through an emotional boot camp. If someone asked, "Do you use your imagination?" you might say, "Not really. I'm not that creative." But your brain is already using imagination. It's just been mostly recruited into rehearsing fear instead of rehearsing possibility. Today, we're going to talk about how imagination actually works in the brain and body, and how you can start using it deliberately as a tool for well-being, courage, and gentle change in this mid-season of your life. For a long time, imagination was treated as just daydreaming, but brain imaging studies tell a different story. Imagining something and actually experiencing it share a lot of the same neural mechanisms and response patternings. A few key findings in this research are that mental rehearsal and motor imagery activate many of the same brain regions involved in movement and perception. Imagining playing piano lights up finger-related motor areas. Imagining walking on a beach activates sensory and motor areas as if you were actually there. A Cleveland Clinic study and other related work reported that people who only imagined strength training of a specific muscle group actually increased strength by around 13 to 22%, while those who physically trained increased by about 30%, meaning mental practice alone produced nearly half the strength gains of real training through neural adaptations. A study led by Colorado University in Boulder and others found that imagining feared situations while pairing them with safety and new outcomes can help people unlearn conditioned fear responses. Imagination literally updates emotional memory, making old triggers less activating. Newer research shows that just activating solely through imagination only emotional states of joy, fear, or gratitude, for example, your brain releases real chemical messengers like dopamine or cortisol. shaping your body's reactions even though nothing is happening outside you. So when you repeatedly imagine worst-case futures, your nervous system doesn't say, "Oh good, that's just pretend." It responds as if you're practicing danger. Likewise, when you intentionally imagine yourself calm, capable, and supported in real-world situations, you're actually practicing those patterns so they're more accessible later. Imagination, in other words, is a form of neuroplastic training, a form of neuroplasticity which we'll cover more in depth in next week's episode. Here's where this gets especially interesting for mid-season women. We've already talked about how perimenopause and menopause change the brain. Some women experience brain fog, memory glitches, or mental fatigue during this midlife transition. But there's a growing body of work suggesting that after this transition, women often experience things like increased cognitive resilience and emotional intelligence, greater ability to integrate experience and see the big picture, and a surge in creativity and motivation to pursue meaningful, often new directions. Some writers call this a midlife renaissance of the brain, a period where, freed from certain earlier hormonal pulls and roles, your brain can invest more in creativity, values-aligned work, and self-authored choices. Imagination is one of the ways you can cooperate with and better support that shift. Instead of only imagining the past or worst-case scenarios, you can try on new ways of living before you make big changes. You can practice conversations, boundaries, and self-care in your mind so they're less shocking to your nervous system in real time. And you can reimagine old memories and current fears with new outcomes, helping your brain unhook from old fear loops. So let's talk about how to put this in practice in simple, doable ways. Practice number 1, the 2-minute tomorrow rehearsal. This is a short, forward-focused rehearsal you can do at night that supports your nervous system instead of stressing it out. Before bed, ideally instead of a last scroll, try this instead. Take a few slow, deep breaths, letting your exhale be slightly longer than your inhale. Bring to mind one specific moment you'll face tomorrow that tends to be challenging. Maybe it's the start of your workday, a meeting, a difficult conversation, the commute to or after work rush, or a transition that usually feels hectic. Now imagine that moment going 10 to 15% better than usual. Not perfect, just better. See yourself arriving with a little more calm in your body. Envision the drive you take being smooth, peaceful, and enjoyable. Imagine your shoulders relaxed, your breath steady, your voice a bit softer but clear. Picture yourself doing one small thing differently, taking a pause before responding, asking for clarity confidently without apology, and giving your complete no to something you no longer wish to do, or using a boundary phrase you've been practicing. The key to fully embodying this using your imagination is to involve your senses. What do you see, hear, feel, and sense in your body? And can you feel a hint of relief or confidence? You're teaching your brain this situation doesn't only end badly, there's another possible script. Over time, this kind of rehearsal can make it easier to access calmer, more empowered responses in the moment. Practice number 2, rewriting a fear script. We all have recurring fear movies we play over and over again in our heads. What if my health collapses? What if I end up alone? What if I fail publicly? What if I embarrass myself? What if changing this job or relationship ruins everything in my life? So here's a way to work with one of them. Choose one fear scenario that your mind plays on repeat. You know the one. Close your eyes, and for 30 to 60 seconds, let the familiar story play, just enough to feel, oh, there it is. Then, on purpose, change the script at the point where it usually peaks. Imagine yourself pausing and taking a breath. Imagine receiving unexpected support from a friend, a partner or spouse, a caring professional, a colleague, or your future self. Then picture yourself handling the situation with more groundedness, asking questions, setting limits, making a different choice, feeling confident and at peace with the situation instead. You're not pretending nothing hard will ever happen. You're training your brain to see additional possible responses besides collapse or catastrophe. Studies on imagination and fear show that this kind of mental rescripting can reduce emotional responses to triggers because the brain updates its "this is what always happens" memory to another possibility. Practice number 3, a future self visit. Once this week, give yourself 3 to 5 quiet minutes where you won't be disturbed for a gentle future self visualization. First, get comfortable and breathe slowly for a minute or two to really settle yourself into the practice. Imagine yourself 5 or 10 years from now, same body, but different season. Perhaps your work, caregiving roles, or daily rhythms have shifted, and your days look a little different. Let an image emerge of a version of you who feels more at home in her body, clearer about what she says yes and no to, more connected to what actually matters to her, and perhaps living a more joyful, adventurous life. Then look around. Where is she? What does a regular day look like for her? How does she move through it? How does she speak to herself? How does she feel? Who or what does she prioritize and surround herself with? Finally, imagine her turning towards you and offering one sentence, one piece of advice or reassurance for the you who's listening right now. Don't overthink it. Let the first kind, grounded sentence that arises be enough. From a brain perspective, you're giving your mind a target state to move toward, not a rigid goal, but a felt sense of, oh, that's me too. From an emotional perspective, you're letting your own wisdom speak from a place beyond today's worries, stresses, and concerns. Now, it's worth naming the difference between intentional imagination and rumination. Rumination is repetitive, often involuntary thinking that circles familiar worries and regrets without leading to new possibilities. It usually increases anxiety and keeps your nervous system activated. Intentional imagination, though, is time-limited, specific, and includes new elements, like new responses, new feelings, new outcomes, new possibilities. It's paired with regular anchor-like breath, and you exit it or complete it deliberately. One simple check is after visualization, do you feel slightly more resourced and spacious or more agitated and stuck? If it's the latter, that's your cue to scale back, ground, and maybe work with a licensed therapist on those particular scenarios if you're struggling to shift them on your own. So to round out the series, here's how these 3 inner tools work together. Intuition gives you a sense of what is true for you now, your inner yes, no, or not yet. Intention is how you choose to aim your attention and energy in line with that truth, your repetitive and reflective thoughts and daily focus. And imagination lets you rehearse living that truth and intention in a way your brain and nervous system can practice ahead of time. For example, your intuition says this workload and pace is unsustainable. Your intention says, I aim to protect my nervous system and work and live from a more grounded, sustainable place now. And your imagination says, I picture myself actually having that conversation with whoever it is, feeling my feet on the floor, hearing my own steady voice, and walking away from it with one small change or shift in a better, more supportive direction. You're no longer just surviving your life, you're quietly training your whole system to inhabit a next chapter that fits who you are now. As we close this trio on intuition, intention, and imagination, you might hold or consider a few questions. What have I mostly been using my imagination for? Fear rehearsals or courage rehearsals? And if I gave my future self a bit more airtime and attention, what would she want me to stop imagining, and what would she want me to start imagining instead? And finally, what's one small situation this week, just one, where I'm willing to try a 2-minute rehearsal before I step fully into it? You don't need a perfect 5-year plan. You just need a growing relationship with your own inner signals, your chosen focus, and a mind's eye that's willing to picture something kinder and more aligned than endless worst-case scenarios. If this episode on imagination helped you feel a little more hopeful about what's possible in your next season, that your brain and body are not stuck with the old script forever, I'd love for you to keep walking with me here on Rooted Insights. Follow, like, and subscribe, and if it feels supportive, share this series with another mid-season friend who could use more grounded, science-informed, and heart-centered conversations. And I'd love to know what's one small way you're planning to use your imagination differently after this episode, and which of the trio, intuition, intention, or imagination, feels most alive for you right now. Share in the comments below. Your share might be exactly what another woman needs to remember that she has more inner tools than she realized. If you're already feeling the pull to play with intention and imagination more deeply, keep an eye out for Rooted Within, Intuition, Intention, and Imagination for mid-season. It's a short, support-rich mini-course I'll be opening in the next few weeks to really help you bring this series into your actual calendar and body. As you've probably felt over these 3 episodes, intuition, intention, and imagination aren't fluffy extras. Together, they make up a quiet, personal power trio that helps you co-create your next chapter from the inside out, especially in this second season of life. If you're ready to not just learn about these tools, but actually practice them with gentle guidance, I'd love to have you inside the new mini course opening in the coming weeks. It includes short lessons, nervous system aware practices, and space to apply all of this in your real, beautifully complicated life. So remember, we're here rooting in together, one inner nudge, one chosen focus, one brave new possibility at a time. Until next time on Rooted Insights, where we explore the fascinating topic of neuroplasticity in mid-season.